Hi everybody, Tim Hughes here. I'm the CEO and co-founder of DAL Ignite. With me today, I've got Lee Odden. Lee and I are going to talk about the business of B2B influencer marketing. Before we get into that, Lee, tell people where they can get hold of you.
Thanks, Tim. It's great to be here. And people can get a hold of me at toprankmarketing.com. That's our agency website. But we also have been publishing a blog about various marketing topics, including the topic today, influencer marketing for B2B, at marketingblog.com.
And you've got a series of where you're interviewing a whole bunch of influencers about marketing and stuff.
Yeah, as an extension of the report and the research study, we decided to continue the conversation with many of those who had contributed their insights from some of the top B2B brands in the world, SAP, LinkedIn, Dell, and so forth, Oracle, and started a video series called Inside Influence, published every Monday at marketingblog.com.
And I've seen the first one, which was with SAP, Ursula SAP, and it's very insightful, so it's good.
It's been cool. Yeah. We really want to kind of uncover what's working, what's not, from people who are actually doing this stuff. And so some of the folks people will have heard of, some of the brands certainly people will have heard of, but many others maybe not. But they're doing some really impressive work, and we're trying to create a resource for folks to elevate the level of work that's being done in the field of influencer marketing for B2B.
So we're going to use some research that you've done as a form of conversation piece today. Before we get in, where can people find that research?
So the research is the 2020 State of B2B Influencer Marketing Report, and they can find that at b2b.influencermarketingreport.com. Right, very easy. b2b.influencermarketingreport.com.
And it's in the message notes as well, because yeah. So that's good. And while you took the research just before March, I've read the report, and actually it talks about the pandemic as if it's current state.
Yeah, we bled over. Yeah, data capture went into April, so we did have some information captured during that time, right? And certainly we took it into account when writing the report as well.
Yeah, I mean, there's a quote from the guy from LinkedIn, which is actually really interesting, because he says the quote. I'm not quoting it direct, but says that as soon as there was a crisis, he was basically able to switch on the influencers rather than having to go out and research and stuff like that. It was already on, which is like really cool, especially in the current circumstances.
Yeah, Garner Maranta is group marketing manager at LinkedIn and responsible for LinkedIn Marketing Solutions, LinkedIn Sales Solutions, influencer program, and that's one of they've really taken the long view of their influencer engagement approach, and meaning that they're not just looking to get influencers to amplify content for a campaign. They're looking to build relationships with people, and of course, we all know that investment pays off through organic advocacy, and even people coming to your defense, as he says in his quote.
So in terms of the report, there's 300 responses. You've got Brian Solis, Mark Schaefer, Anne Handley, and a whole bunch of people from SAP and Dell. So what's the high level thing that you got from the report?
Well, the confidence in influencer marketing for B2B is quite high. 96% of companies who are implementing influencer marketing programs feel that they are at some level successful. And we had really high numbers and things in terms of, the impact on marketing, impact on customer experience. 74% feel that if you work with influencers at your B2B brand, you are actually creating a positive experience for both prospects and customers. And there are others who said, 63% said that if you have an influencer marketing program, your marketing overall will perform better. So that's all on the optimistic side of things. And yet, something like 60% of companies said that are not implementing ongoing programs, they just don't have the skills or the resources to implement influencer marketing themselves. A crazy number are not even using any software at all. like 40% or 50% or something like that. And so a large number are not implementing ongoing programs, which came to be the most successful approach.
Because you use a term. Sorry to.
No, it's good.
You use a term which is always on. What do you mean by always on?
Yeah, always on is really it's a relationship focus. So the outcome is in building strength and quality of relationship with individuals who can represent your brand, represent the things that your customers are interested in that align with brand values and objectives. Investing in relationships with people who can be really an extension of the brand in some cases, especially at times where it matters most, like what Garner was making reference to from LinkedIn. So always on is not about, okay, we've got a piece of content, we've got a blog post or a listicle or something. Let's go find some famous people, get a quote from them, and then, put it in the content and then tell that person we featured them and hope that they share it with their social network. And then that's it. And that person never hears from the brand again until they need them. So it's not about using influencers. It's actually about helping influencers become more influential by creating content collaborations and activations that really deliver mutual value. Like it's a everyone win situation. Now, people sometimes think always on means, oh my gosh, we've got to allocate so many more resources to keep the fire on all the time. And no, that's not the case. But you know that channels today that are all digital, and B2B is more digital now than ever, especially with the pandemic. And so social is 24/7, right? Your blog, your website is 24/7. So you can contribute to those streams of information and engagement with more credible content via influencer collaborations. And you can do that periodically or do it with a plan that calls for a certain cadence of interaction and engagement instead of only during campaigns.
Right. Because you're really honest in the report, because there's actually a fact that I thought that you would have swept under the carpet, which is the fact that you say that there's actually an admission that influencer marketing doesn't work because I'm being deliberately provocatively. Where people don't have where people treat influencers basically as a transaction, they're only seeing a 5% response. Whereas where people are seeing influencers as a relationship, they're seeing a 60% claim that the campaigns are successful.
Exactly.
And that's a massive difference.
It's a massive difference. 12 times more many marketers that are running always on programs are seeing success versus those who are doing only intermittent or periodic campaigns. That's the 5 to 60% difference. And you're right. It's interesting because you do add distribution value, but it's very short term. And it's nothing compared to someone who cares about the content they collaborated with you on. You know what I mean? That I have an expression I like to use: if they care, they'll share, right? And the way to create care is to make it meaningful, to make it not mechanical, as you say, not transactional, but something that is about, what do we have in common? What can we achieve together? What can we do to elevate our industry? What can we do that really makes our business better and really delivers value to our common audience? When brands can come with that, it's a win.
Because to put it in my language, is that my audience, like me, they don't necessarily like Dell or SAP.
Right.
And what I've always, I'm a salesperson, and what I need to do is I need to talk to new people, and I need to build relationships and have conversations. And what I'm trying to do, therefore, is to find people that I can do that with. But I'm always trying to find new people and new audiences that I can have that conversation with. And in a way, that what I do is I open a doorway for Dell SAP to have a conversation with my audience, who know me, like me, and trust me. So they move from, well, I don't know who Dell is, and I really don't care, to, well, Tim actually thinks that they're quite nice. So I trust him, therefore I should trust Dell. Sorry,
Yep.
I just wanted to put influencer marketing in my terminology, in my simple terminology. Would you agree that that's a situation?
It is a situation. In fact, in the report, there's a case study with a company called Sherwell Software that was pivoting from being focused on IT service management to digital transformation. And they weren't known for digital transformation. So
Right.
what better way to reach a new audience in a credible way than by partnering with influencers around digital transformation, create useful content. And with the particular campaign that's in the case study, or in the report, 90% of people that consumed that campaign content were brand new names,
Right,
to the brand. So that's literally a case study that exemplifies the point you're making.
because you use lots of marketing terms like reach and stuff like that, which is basically getting in front of more and more people,
Right.
And and in terms of making sure that people actually see what's being what you're presenting them with. So whether it's a piece of content or whatever, but the fact of the matter is that you're using the influencer as a way of presenting that to their audience and them saying, this is something that you might be interested in. Have a look.
Exactly. It's really about finding individuals who are, they have a point of view, they're authoring content, they're promoting content, and they've attracted a community, and finding out, hey, what do we have in common? What influencer do we, you and the brand have in common? What can we align on? And when you find that common ground, let's make something together, right? Let's advance that cause. And when you do that and the influencer shares that, not only does it give the brand exposure to the influencer's audience, but it also creates credibility for the influencer too, because it's more useful content and information for which those people are relying on the influencer for anyway.
Hmm. You actually have a set of a graph in the report in terms of what B2B marketers can achieve with influencers, and it's interesting that you actually have 84% is brand awareness, and then 69% is lead generation. It's interesting that for me that you've actually that people are seeing this as a way of actually generating leads more than just awareness.
Yeah. Increasingly, the more sophisticated B2B marketers are looking at influence as a holistic practice, meaning that the function of influence is something that is present and relevant across the entire customer life cycle, from awareness to consideration to purchase, and also retention and advocacy. There's influence happening in every interaction. We're influencing each other right now, probably, and so
you're an influencer, Lee. What's going on here?
Well, I appreciate the work you've done as an influencer for my company and our clients. So, it's an opportunity. It's really an opportunity to make a connection, and there's so many ways that we can do that. I guess from a conversion standpoint, when one of the exercises we do in understanding a content program that has been designed to achieve objectives like lead gen and brand awareness simultaneously, is to map influencers that are appropriate to that stage of the content experience. So we have brand individuals, as we call them, famous, super famous brand individuals.
Okay, right.
This is the pro influencer who's writing books and keynoting and creating lots of very professional, polished content. And they tend to have very large networks. So top of funnel content is great for them to create exposure to a new thing. And then we might work with, employees or internal subject matter experts for more consideration phase. We might work with customers that have case study oriented experiences with the brand for conversion oriented content. So it really does depend on the company, but influencers do play a role, or the function of influence. And this is the thing for people to take away. It's not just about the idea of influencers and those people, but it's about the idea of what influence does. It's about persuasion and credibility and building confidence and trust. And so people do enjoy buying from other people. They're, bees are people too in B2B, right? And so working with influencers does something, especially when you're creating content experiences that are emotional and immersive or something that really has impact. It's something that can really create a lot of affinity for a brand. And so you line up what's the right type of influencer according to what I'm trying to achieve in the customer content experience.
Yes.
And that's where you get the conversion objective really effective, as opposed to just throwing a grab bag of influencers that are randomly important and influential about the topic and throwing them like digital spaghetti against the wall to see what sticks.
Yeah, I mean, one of our clients said to us, he said the days of throwing a piece of content at a bunch of strangers and expecting something to happen are over. And there has to be some sort of there has to be a bridge between the brand. I'm sorry, but people don't care, care about the company, because
right.
What you're trying to do is actually what you're trying to do is get them to actually notice you. So the brand and the audience and the influencers, that is in effect that bridge.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, the influencer has natural empathy for the pain that the audience or customer is feeling. They may even be in that role as a frontline practitioner of the discipline. So they can speak that language, they can talk with the voice of the customer. And like you say, can provide that great bridge between what the brand is thinking about and the value they're bringing to the table and how that actually translates to something useful to potential customers.
So you talk about the in the report in terms of the things that people should be looking at for choosing an influencer, like relevance of audience, values aligned with the brand, size of the audience, subject matter expertise. It's interesting that charisma and personality is actually quite low. Maybe that's just a thing about influencers. So what is it that people need to, do you think that people need to focus on? Because if I sit here and think, right, I need to have an influencer program, what is it that I need to do?
Well, if your expectation, it really comes down to you, what do you hope to achieve with working with that influencer? So in a lot of cases, in B2B, you have influencers that are digital and not digital. There is no social data, and yet they are very influential. So adding third-party credibility to brand content, especially with something like thought leadership, gives you that validation. There, you're really looking at just the credentials really of the individual and the respect that they have in the industry. And you're really not too concerned about their social community size or anything like that. But then you might have another situation where we really are counting on influencer distribution. We really do want to reach new audiences. And so relevance of audience is top of the heap there. And that's where a lot of folks who took the survey had ranked what characteristic as the most important. And the reason why is when an influencer talks about an idea that they've collaborated with a brand on, and it's familiar to the audience, and it's something the audience actually cares about, and industry-wise and practitioner-wise, it's something that's relevant, well, then we're creating something of value. If the influencer is talking about a particular topic, and then all of a sudden they start talking about something else, it's foreign, it doesn't resonate. And sure, the brand can say, yeah, or the agency can say, yeah, we had an influencer with 1.2 million followers and they shared our content, and they promote that superficial, meaningless statistic to their upstream executive team as a win. And really it means nothing.
Yeah. You use a term called forced multiplier. What do you mean by that?
Well, I spent a little time in the military, but of course, you watch any military-oriented media, TV show or movie or whatever, you'll hear the expression force multiplier. What it means, it's adding an element to a situation that's actually increasing by multiples the effect of what it is that you're doing. So if I have really great content, and it answers buyer questions, it's aesthetically amazing and super on topic and timely, and it's positioned at the right time, it's going to have a certain amount of success. But when I add third-party credibility to that content through industry experts, and it's really insightful and super relevant, and it's something that's truly, truly engaging, I've added a force multiplier to my content marketing. I'm adding 2, 3, 4, 5 times X potential impact by adding that third-party credibility.
Right. Okay. I think there's always an assumption that it's if we have, there's an organization, they have technical people in that organization. It would be good to get those technical people to actually talk out in the world of social. But there's actually people quite often still think about marketing as being a mass market. There's actually only a very small number of people that will listen to those people. But if you got, take Brian Solis, who's a proper influencer, people listen to what Brian says.
Yes, absolutely.
And they will, Brian's just started this podcast, and not my podcast, another one. People will make time to go and listen to that because it's Brian.
Right. And, Brian's a brand individual. He's a professional influencer. I mean, granted, he works for Salesforce, but, he has a very large following, and, he's a big idea guy. And I mean, he's also in some areas a bit of a practitioner, but, he's a theorist in many cases, and he's got a great batting average on a lot of the ideas that he's putting out there. When you have someone who's, let's say, an internal, technician or something like that, they're going to have a much smaller audience, but the percentage of people that they're probably going to engage is going to be much higher. If I have a person with 1 million followers and only, if 1,000 people interact with my content, that's great. Yeah. But if I have someone with, 50,000 followers and 10,000 engage, I want case or situation number 2, right? Yeah. Because that's maybe what I'm after.
So is there anything else? We're just coming up, we're over 20 minutes. Is there anything else that you think from the report, you just wanted to highlight?
I think integration is a big key in that a lot of folks try to position marketing tactics against each other or as a siloed things like, well, should I do this or that? And really, influence is an integration tactic in much that social media is an integration tactic. You don't just do social media. Social media integrates with everything. And so we found that, a lot of folks are integrating influencer marketing with social media, with public relations, as you imagine. But only 50% were integrating with SEO. And I think SEO is a huge opportunity. And the reason why is because of EAT, experience, expertise, authoritativeness, and trustworthiness are 3 criteria that Google Quality Rater guidelines rely on heavily to determine what ranks high. And so third-party credibility is a big part of adding expertise, authoritativeness, and trustworthiness to your content. So I think companies that can use what they're doing with SEO and the topic research they're doing there and bring that over to the topics they're using to identify influencers who are authoring content on those very same topics and find a way to bring those together and integrate them. I think they're going to see some really, really important wins, both in the short term for social distribution, but also in the long term as that content starts to rank and Google drives visitors who are looking for solutions, and here they find it. Because Google likes that content. And when they click through, they land on the page. It's not just the brand beating their chest, but it's useful content that also includes third-party validation.
I think that's really important. If you're in a situation where you're searching, you've got a problem and you're searching on Google, it might surprise brands, but actually you're unlikely to go to a brand because a brand's just going to say, buy my product because it's good. And everybody says that. So, but if you've got some third party that's not necessarily standing there going, I brush my teeth with Pepsodent, but actually, there's if you got Brian, in your report, 3rd page, you got Brian Solis, and I'm like, right, I'm reading this. Not just because I'm interviewing you, but as if I wasn't interviewing, Brian Solis is on the 3rd page. I'm reading this, and that's the you immediately have authority on that piece of content, but just by having his photo on the 3rd page. And that's what you're kind of talking about, I think.
Absolutely. Yep, indeed.
Lee, it's been fantastic. It goes so quickly. Thank you so much for your time today. Well,
thank you.
I've got the details will be in the show notes and the links to the report. Thank you so much for that. And thanks for coming on and talking to us about the report. It's some great insight there.
I appreciate that, Tim. Thank you for a great discussion. And it's always a pleasure to see you.
Yeah. And maybe we once saw each other in London, and maybe we'll do that again sometime.
I hope so.
At a conference or something. You never know. They may come back.
Exactly. Okay. Have a good one.